Good evening and welcome to News Central Television. I am Ina Maso. Here are the top stories at this hour. Nigeria Air Force Alpha jet crashes in Kainji base in Niger State. Senator Ali Ndume asks President Tinubu to withdraw ambassadorial list, cites a breach of federal character. And at least 11 persons killed in a mass shooting at illegal Tavern in South Africa. I'm back with the details shortly. Now, we begin the news this evening in Niger State, where two Nigerian Air Force Alpha jet pilots on Saturday survived after a test flight crashed in the NAF base in Kainji. The chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sunday Aneke, has consequently directed the immediate constitution of a board of inquiry to investigate the incident. The statement by the NAF spokesman, Air Commander Ehimen Ejodame, made this known in a statement, adding that the pilot safely ejected following an in-flight emergency during a post-inspection functional check flight. The statement noted that the aircraft developed an emergency shortly after taking off, which prompted the pilots to act swiftly. He said the crew were undergoing medical evaluation. And now to one of our top stories. A former Senate leader, Ali Ndume, has urged President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to withdraw the ambassadorial nomination list currently before the Senate, alleging that its composition violates the federal character principle prescribed by the 1999 Constitution. The Senate had on Thursday received a list of career and non-career ambassadorial nominees from President Tinubu, which was referred to the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs for screening. But Ndume, who represents Borno South, said in a statement on Saturday that the distribution of nominees was lopsided and failed to reflect Nigeria's diversity as required under Section 14 of the Constitution. He said while some states have as many as 3 or 4 nominees, others have none, including Gombe State. Now, joining us for more on this from Lagos is a man who understands the subject. He is a lawyer and he is Tunji Abdul Hamid. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Now, Mr. Abdul Hamid, let's look closely at the senator's claims. Is it consistent with reality and as he claims, and the law as well?
Yeah, I have looked at the list and I can see that what is said regarding some state having 4, some state having 3, and some and a state having none is correct. I have noticed that a state like Gombe has no representative in the list, while a state like Ondo and some other states have like 3 or 4 or even 2. That for me it may not be too good enough to eliminate or to exclude a particular state, while some other states are having 4 or 5. But that does not mean it is inconsistent with our constitution. As far as I'm concerned, it is not. It is not inconsistent with the constitution. They are probably bearing in mind that if the government may even tell you that they are still working on the list, that more will come as well. But it would have been better if the president had done it in a way that those that with 3, we have 1 or 2, and then those with none, we have their own there. Then if you want to add more, that will not create any suspicion of any allegation of this nature. But for me, it's still not bad in terms of federal character they are talking about. After all, there's nothing in that constitution that specify how that federal character should be. They only say that the president shall put into consideration sections 171, section 5 of the constitution, say that the president in appointing ambassador or any appointment power conferred on him under section 171, section 1, he must put into consideration the federal character principle, and he must put the interest of the national unity into consideration as well. So for the purpose of national unity, I think every state must have its own representative, and it must be evenly distributed to an extent. Unfortunately, there is no law as regard what we can consider evenly distributed or equitable distribution of the position that will reflect federal character. It is, I think, well, the balance is what the law is expecting them to bring on board.
Right.
As it is today now, anyway, the National Assembly still have the opportunity to look at the list and then tell the president what they think is not proper there. But that's not enough for the president to recall the list.
Right. And now, Mr. Tunji, the so-called federal character breach is a section in the Nigerian constitution that cannot be taken to court. So how far can Senator Ndume his cry go since it cannot be judicially remedied?
Yes, I agree with you that Section 14, Section 3 of the Constitution, which I required that a federal character must be put into consideration, and Section 171, Section 5 of the Constitution, which required the president to put into consideration federal character when in this kind of appointment, Section 14, for instance, cannot be enforced in court. The only way it can be enforced is for the National Assembly to look into it and say, look, the president will notice this inconsistency, I will notice this inequality in the list, or we notice that a state or some states have no representative, and why some has 4 or 5. Therefore, please, in the interest of the national unity and in the interest of compliance with federal character principle, you need to look into this and refute the list, or even add more or remove more from the list. So now, the National Assembly can still do something in that regard.
Right. Now,
that's the only solution that's available now.
Now, if we look at the views of a number of various analysts, many analysts point to the fact that the federal character is usually an argument of convenience and that any sitting president can basically favor whomever he pleases. How does that come into the current picture now?
Yes, I agree to them to an extent, but I also don't want to believe that, look, some people say federal character means that you must take away merit. No, it doesn't. You can now find a merit in every state. If you are looking at equitable distribution in all states, and you are looking for a situation whereby all states will have relative, you can see people that will be fit in every state of this country. So that does not mean because they are talking about federal character, you will say, no, we are only concerned about merit. Because sometimes government too, they do that. They will tell you this appointment was based on merit. Don't let us look at federal character. Federal character will not help us. We will go into merit. On the other side, it doesn't favor them. They go and talk about federal character. So we are not consistent with our application of our rule of law in the country, and that's why we have been having problems in this country. No compliance with the rule of law, neglect of rule of law, or compliance with the rule of law when it's convenient to us, and when it's not convenient with the exercise. That has been the problem. So I want to agree with them to an extent that compliance with the federal character is at convenience of those that are in power at the time.
Now, Mr. Tunji, as you know that we have seen, because it was published, all the 68 ambassadorial nominees. So taking into consideration the fact that the list was released and we have seen and taken note of the names, in your own calculated view, what exactly should the president do at this time? Should he withdraw the list indeed, or just let the pressure pass with time?
No, if there's an error or omission in that list, he did not withdraw the list. People who are not... people have made criticize the list based on a kind of some character of some certain people in that list. Some people are seen as people who are not fit to represent us abroad. Some people some of them as people who are failed in their responsibility in the state as a governor or as a whatever opportunity they've given before. So they are now using that as compensation for them to hold position, political consideration. So I think if the president agrees with them, he need not withdraw. What he needs to do is to add, give those states who doesn't have a representative their own, or also look at it and see how they can make sure that the balance is in it. Because there must be, we are in a situation whereby these sentiments are always the ethnic, political, regional sentiments. It's a problem in our country has been there. So we must not create any suspicion as to whether or not we are treating any particular section a different way. Unfortunately, it looks like that. Perception is very key in this regard, and it appears the president are not looking in that regard. They are not considering the perception of the people regarding the list. So there are so many names that I have issues with. For me, if I were to be member of the National Assembly, I will raise issue regarding their nomination, and I probably vote against their nomination. But unfortunately, we have a National Assembly where anything goes, where whatever comes from the president is taken as a perfect, and they don't criticize it because they see criticizing or scrutinizing the list or request of the president as anti-government or anti-president, or as you are not a lover of the president. So it is unfortunate that our National Assembly, most of them don't know why they are in National Assembly. And I'm not surprised when you see them, you see National Assembly singing on your mandate. A National Assembly who should be the one checking the executive and now standing on the mandate of the executives. So what do you expect them to do? They will not do more. So this list may likely pass through without any issue from the National Assembly. Unfortunately, again, the president not even indicate which country any of they are going to. Is leaving it to them. If that has been included, they probably will have a way of asking questions regarding the area of where they are going and to level of understanding of the country they are being posted to. Unfortunately, it's not so because it does not contain that. All
right, Tunji Abdulhamid, thank you so much for your time, sir. And now, the Nigerian Senate has begun debate on a bill to amend the Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act 2020. The bill is aimed to empower the Central Bank of Nigeria to designate and supervise non-bank financial institutions. The bill focuses on fintech operations whose activities lawmakers say now form critical national infrastructure. The bill targets mobile money operations, payment service banks, digital lenders, wallet providers, and switching companies that serve tens of millions of Nigerians and process large daily transaction volumes. Lawmakers say these entities hold significant financial data but operate under outdated regulatory frameworks. The amendment seeks to ensure that the systemic importance and risk posed by these companies are properly managed. Now, Jed Onyenye, an IT lawyer, joins us in Lagos for more on this. You're welcome, Jed.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Jed, take us through this very quickly. If the bill passes, how will it change the legal and regulatory status of mobile money operations and digital lenders? Of course, will they become equivalent to banks under Central Bank of Nigeria supervision with similar obligations and oversights?
All right. Ideally, they don't become banks automatically, of course. But you see, the law gives CBN powers to treat such large fintechs as quasi-banking systemically important institutions, and then now subject them to the kind of oversight and scrutiny that a lot of banking institutions do have because of their importance, you understand, in the plumbing of our financial infrastructure. That's exactly why we have them.
Now, in terms of criteria, what criteria will the CBN use to determine which non-bank fintechs are systematically important and therefore subject to new regulatory regimes?
Well, until the bill passes into law, before we know exactly what criteria they will use, but one of the things we can consider from a lot of things we have read and we know as of now is quantitative thresholds, like the number of users that these fintechs have, the volume of the transactions. You know, we have some fintechs that perform transactions that are even more than even some tier banks in Nigeria. And I don't want to mention names, but we do know those people. And then, of course, outstanding customer balances, their agent network size. By mentioning agent network size, you know what I'm talking about. And of course, their interconnectedness, because, you know, dependence on the payment trails and on our the NIBSS, that's Nigerian Interbank Settlement System, and of course the volume of data that they also hold, because, you know, we are moving towards making sure that we don't just unnecessarily lose data and allow people become vulnerable. And of course, the last one I think would be very, very important is the operational risk history. You remember in 2024, there was a list of fintechs that they stopped them from opening new accounts because of AML and KYC failures. You understand? I don't want to mention their names, but you know, so all things are what are going to be considered when we are looking at SIIs. Yeah, so that's systemically important institutions.
Now, Jed, what might this regulatory shift, how might it affect consumers in terms of data privacy protection from fraud and unethical lending practices, and of course the overall financial security?
Yeah, so first of all, it's potentially positive. I really believe that we should, first of all, look at it from the positive side of things. If the bill is matched with clear data governance, consumer protection and enforcement rules, it would work out very, very well. So the concrete improvements that we're going to highlight, we talk about data sovereignty and audit rights. Those must be there. Now, fair lending standards, because we have a lot of digital lenders now that are holding Nigerians at the jugular. You understand? We are currently in an economy where we need a lot of lending and we need fair lending practices. So all those things need to be considered. But you see, there's a caveat we need to look into. The bill has very, very good intent, but consumers will only win if the regulators publish enforceable rules, and not just even publish it, now make sure that by the time this rule starts playing out, by the time, say, 2026, when this bill becomes law, they do make sure that they enforce it. Because you see, there are a lot of principles and rules and procedures that, at the end of the day, a lot of times they are not followed, you understand? So at the end of the day, the consumer will be the one that's going to win. That's myself and yourself and 250 million of us out there.
All right. IT lawyer Jed Oyeneye, thank you so much for your time, sir.
All right.
We're going on a quick break now, but when we return, Senate President Akpabio denies filing new charges against Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Details of this report and more after the break. Do stay with us. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, Senate President Godswill Akpabio has denied filing any new charges against Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, describing reports claiming otherwise as misleading. The clarification was issued through his special assistant on media, Jackson Udom, who emphasized that the claims of a just-filed 200 billion naira suit are false and intended to misinform the public. Now, according to the statement, repeated attempts by the court's bailiff to serve Akpoti-Uduaghan with the origination processes failed due to deliberate evasions. Consequently, the court granted an application for substituted service in November. And now, zooming into politics, a former National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, Kola Ologbondiyan, has officially withdrawn his membership from the party. He submitted a formal resignation letter to the PDP chairman of Okekoko ward in Kaba Bunu local government, Kogi state, bringing an end to his active role in the party. He also expressed gratitude to the party's leadership for the opportunities afforded to him during his tenure, noting the experience he gained while serving both the party and the nation. After careful reflection on his involvement, he decided to exit the party for personal reasons, making a notable shift in the PDP's leadership landscape. Now, still on politics, recently disqualified governorship aspirants of the All Progressive Congress in Osun State have called for justice over their disqualification by the party's screening committee, saying that the reasons given by the committee were false and baseless. They spoke to newsmen in Abuja, appealing to the leadership of the party to dismiss the submissions by the committee and ensure that they are allowed to contest the party's primaries in the interest of peace and justice.
Here today to say the reason and the conclusion reached by the screening committee are both incorrect. And to establish this, because the reason given by the screening committee for disqualifying 7 of us, including distinguished Senator Iyola Omishore and Omoba Dotumbaba Yemi, is basically that the 7 of us did not meet the requirements of being sponsored by registered, fully registered and financial members of the party. And we said this is not correct. They have been here since morning expecting us, and we are here. So we are making our cases one after another. And it's our hope that the National Working Committee.
Now, away from that, press freedom in Nigeria continues to face major setbacks as new data shows a disturbing trend of violence against journalists. A recent report from SBM Intelligence and EIE Nigeria revealed that between 2019 and 2025, 94 incidents of attacks were recorded, which in turn led to the deaths of 21 journalists across the country. Igbalaniyi Omoniyi has more on the risk and safety of journalists who act as watchdogs for society.
It seems increasingly dangerous to be a journalist in Nigeria, judging by recent data. A new infographic by SBM Intelligence highlights 94 separate attacks on journalists between 2019 and 2025. Of these, 32 involved kidnappings, while 24 were cases of brutality by security forces.
As a matter of fact, Section 22 of the Constitution puts that duty on the media to get information for the people. So the right to have access to the information is being jeopardized by gagging the press.
This kind of pattern are draining newsrooms. So they have financial implications, they have psychological implications, they have safety consequences.
The report shows that attack peaked in 2024 with 25 incidents before slightly declining in 2025. Among the deadliest methods of attack were gun violence, mob action, and political violence.
We were receiving a lot of weapons, a lot of stones.
For writing that story, they accused me of publishing, stealing secrets, official secrets of the government.
Leaders are growing more and more autocratic, meaning they don't want to be questioned. They don't want to be challenged.
Southwest Nigeria leads the chart with 25 reported attacks, followed by North Central with 20, while Northeast recorded the fewest with 6. Advocacy groups say these trends show a deepening disregard for press freedom and safety of journalists.
Genuine democracy will only thrive if the press is free.
We want to say that press freedom is our right. It's not a privilege.
We will not be silenced.
Several journalists have also faced non-physical intimidation, including threats and smear campaigns.
Journalists are playing their role, which is given to them by the constitution of the country, just like the executive or judiciary or legislature is also playing their role under the constitution. So everybody should have the freedom to play the constitutional roles.
This conversation is important to drive conversations around freedom of expression, where we are, and most importantly, where we should be, and then commitments from people, individuals, both on the citizen side of the divide and for public institutions to do better going forward.
As Nigeria prepares for a tense political season in the coming month, it is important to note that the role of the media is crucial. In Lagos, for News Central, Igbalaniyi Omoniyi.
Now, 5 children whose father has reported to have been allegedly abducted by relatives of his late wife and taken into an unknown destination have been located in Anambra State. News Central's correspondent on investigative journalism, Marshal Anthony Ononye, who recently aided the investigation in Anambra State, reports that Mr. Chimka Kailu had cried out to a News Central investigative desk, lamenting his inability to locate or access his 5 children aged between 6 and 10 since after being taken away by his sister-in-law from his house in Lagos State in 2019. Now, 6 years on, in this special report, News Central's TV partners the Nigeria police to carry out this investigation, leading to their discovery and uncovering a family dispute and what might have been a troubled marriage.
Is my sister-in-law, my wife's elder sister, that came to the house where we lived in Bogije, Lagos, and took my wife and children since on the 20th of August, 2018. And since then, I've not seen them till now. None of them, and they were 3 when they left because my wife was pregnant with twins. The first one is Hosanna, that's a female, and she's 10 years now. The second one is Hallelujah, he's 9 years now. And then the third one is Glory, female also, 8 years now.
Then the twins were given birth to in January 2019. So I've been trying all my best to get them back to my house since they were abducted.
Chimka Kalu inspires an investigation in search of his children, whom he says have been kept away from him by family members of his late wife for over 6 years. We got to work and firstly tried reaching out to the person whose phone number was provided by Mr. Kalu, supposedly to be a person whom he accuses of taking his children away from his house in Lagos to a location yet unknown to him. Unfortunately, calls to that number came back futile. Then we moved to the next phase, to deploy our GPS tracking technique in evaluating possible locations where this individual might possibly be situated. Luckily, that paid off. What we found was contrary to location Mr. Kalu had suspected. We found the suspect to be very present in the Idemili North local government area of Anambra State. A petition was quickly sent across to the Nigeria Inspector General of Police, who in turn directed the Anambra State Command to investigate the matter. We arrived Anambra on Sunday, 23rd of November 2025, armed with a copy of the IG's directive, and approached the Anambra State Command. Efforts and information were galvanized, and a team of investigators from the State Criminal Investigation Department were assigned to lead the investigation. After a number of discreet surveillance and intelligence gathering, on Wednesday, 26th of November 2025, the men of the Anambra State CID in the company of New Central Investigative Team located Hosanna Onyedikachi Kalu in a school in Idemili North local government area of Anambra State. She was found in the same location with one of the sister-in-laws to Mr. Kalu, Ama, whose name is currently being withheld. With her cooperation, all 5 children were located and recovered to the Anambra State CID.
Where children are taken forcefully from a parent for 6 years. The wife was pregnant and delivered outside the confines of the home with the family who came to forcefully remove her from her matrimonial home. So the father of the child had not even seen the last born before with his eyes. This is a crime. And it has gotten to such a height in Nigeria where family members use children to settle scores. That is, they just abduct children. They just take them away. A man comes home and finds out that the children are gone, the wife is gone. A woman comes home, finds out that the man has taken the children and taken 4 states away to go and drop somewhere. It is a crime. It's called child abduction, especially in this case where the matter was already reported to the state command. And then you take the child away from the jurisdiction of the same state command that it was reported. 6 years. It is not a family matter, it is a legal matter. The mother is dead. So automatically, the custody of the child goes to the surviving parent, except you have reason to believe in cases of maybe child sexual abuse by the surviving parent, or there is it has been a violent, toxic marriage, it is domestically violent. Those are grounds with which you can now appeal to the court to take custody from an irresponsible father or mother.
Following the milestone on the operation and the intricacies thereof, which indicates long-standing feud between the two families, the men and officers of the state CID have been charged with sole responsibility of overseeing the investigation to an absolute conclusion and ensure the safety of the children as well as their safe return to their legitimate parent as the law may deem fit. For News Central, Marshall Anthony Onoye.
And now we go on a break, but when we return, we bring you more stories. Sudan accuses the RSF of striking 79 civilians, including 43 children dead. Details of this report and more stories come after the break. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Now, the Nigeria Red Cross Society has called for an end to digital violence and abuse. This was as the society embarked on a roadwalk in Abuja as part of its 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, calling for more protection of women and girls using the digital space.
It is about creating awareness to the communities about the sexual gender-based violence that normally happens in our communities. For us, it's a time to promote about the gender-based violence that happen in the communities. But fortunately for this year, the theme is about inclusion of girls and women in a digital world, so that they can be able to understand that they are also protected through the digital world, through communication on the internet.
And now outside of Nigeria, in one of our top stories, Sudan's government is accusing the Rapid Support Forces of launching a deadly drone strike on civilians in West Kordofan. An attack, it says, killed nearly 80 people, many of them being children. The RSF has yet to comment on these allegations. The Khartoum foreign minister says the strike hit a kindergarten in the Kalogi area, killing 79 civilians, including 43 children. Officials allege that the residents rushed to the rescue to the wounded. A second strike followed, and later another attack targeted victims and medical workers in rural areas. And now at least 11 people, including 3 children, were killed in a mass shooting at an illegal bar in South Africa near the administrative capital of Pretoria. The incident occurred in the early hours of Saturday at an unlicensed drinking spot located inside a hostel in the Sausville township of Attridgeville, west of the city. Police said multiple gunmen opened fire on patrons who were gathered at the venue. 10 victims died at the scene, while another later died after being taken to the hospital. A further 14 people sustained gunshot wounds and were admitted for medical treatment. Authorities confirmed that the children killed were aged between 12 and 16 and 3 years old. Police launched a manhunt for 3 male suspects believed to be responsible for the attack. And now at least 11 people, including 3 children, were killed in a mass shooting at an illegal bar in South Africa near the administrative capital of Pretoria. The incident occurred in the early hours of Saturday at an unlicensed drinking spot located inside a hostel in the Sausville township of Attridgeville, west of the city. Police said multiple gunmen opened fire on patrons who were gathered at the venue. 10 victims died at the scene, while another later died after being taken to the hospital. A further 14 people sustained gunshot wounds and were admitted for medical treatment. Authorities confirmed that the children killed were aged between 12 and 16 and 3 years old. Police launched a manhunt for 3 male suspects believed to be responsible for the attack. And now for this conversation, I am joined from Gauteng by Tebogo Mashi Molampe, leader of the Forum for South Africa. Tebogo, you're welcome.
No, thank you so much for having us. Greetings to you and greetings to the viewers.
Thank you. Tebogo, very quickly, I'd like to just hear from you. What was your immediate reaction when you heard about the mass shooting in Attridgeville that claimed 12 lives, including 3 children?
No, it was shocking and also expected. South Africa has now turned into a criminal state where criminals can do as they please. We have made a call to the president previously that they must declare state of emergency on crime in the country. We also suggested that there must be a death penalty, especially on issues of deliberate murder. So we made this call because of the murders that have been taking place. So this one, it's like now it's becoming normal that people can be shot any day in South Africa. 64 people are murdered daily in the country. So it is something that is happening in the country. It has become a mafia state now.
Well. Now, based on the information that is available, I know that the police have not given enough information at this point. What do you believe led to this tragic incident, and what should the public not speculate about right now?
The problem is that this is not the first incident. It happens every year towards December, and then there'll always be mass shootings in areas of entertainment, in taverns, pubs, restaurants, and so forth. So it is not something new. It happens all the time. So we don't know the motive behind, because there were children also there. And then if it was about adults, obviously it was going to be maybe that one individual that they're looking for. But it is a norm now that people can just storm in and start shooting people randomly. People come to their houses, in people's houses when there's gatherings, they start shooting and demands money. People go everywhere and start shooting people. So it happens. It is something that is more like people are now getting used to it, that there must be shooting every day in the country.
And now, Tebogo, do you believe, in your own professional view, do you believe that this is an isolated incident, or is it part of a wider pattern of violence in our communities? As right now, it has been alleged that the incident was due to territorial wars and extortion.
Yeah, it is possible with that, as you previously mentioned, that we will wait for investigations, but it is possible because what is happening currently, as I'm saying, South Africa is becoming a mafia state. People are owning streets, there are people selling drugs, and then this street is for this one is for this ones, and also these illegal taverns also, there's competition among such particular people. So we cannot even say it is not true or it is true, but those allegations, if investigated well, they might be founded, because it happens in the country that people are owning streets. In the capital city of Pretoria, there are drug lords that are owning streets, there's human trafficking taking place, there's prostitution taking place, the owners, and the police are aware of that, but nothing is happening. That is why we are saying South Africa is now beginning to be a mafia state.
Now, I happen to live down the road in KwaZulu-Natal, which is not too far from Atteridgeville. But I'd like to know, Tebogo, in your view, are the police and the government doing enough to protect communities like Atteridgeville? And if not, what must change immediately?
There's not enough. No, we've written to the provincial commissioner ourselves to tell him that police in Pretoria West are involved in illegal activities. Till to date, we have never received a response from that particular provincial commissioner. And we are willing to give him the lead to say, in this area, this is doing 1, 2, 3. Because we have done our job, we have done our investigations. Ours was just to hand over information to the provincial commissioner. But he decided not to respond to us. And I'm talking about something that we've done 3 to 4 months ago, and then no response even today. So the police are not interested. In Pretoria West, there are police that are working with criminals, criminals that are selling drugs in Pretoria West. And we explained this to them through our letter, and also availed ourselves to say we are available to take you through this thing if maybe you are not aware as the provincial commissioner. But he decided to keep quiet. So police are not doing enough.
Final remarks. I'd like to hear from you. What message do you have for the grieving families? And of course, a frightened nation, because G20 summit, President announced that gender-based violence is a public disaster and a state of emergency. But I'd like to hear from you what remarks you have for a frightened nation, and what practical steps can be taken to prevent another tragedy like this, especially it being the festive period.
Yes, the issue is that politicians will always talk. The president has said some things, but nothing will happen. We will always make a speech and say this must happen and so forth. So what we are saying is that communities must now begin to strengthen their community patrols, and then they make sure that they protect one another, and then they must be vigilant at all times. Communities must have cell phones of their neighbors, because there are some areas where people cannot talk to their neighbors. But I'm saying that must be something of the past. People must begin now to unite as communities and fight these demons, because it is proven that we are living in a state where police are sometimes not there, and sometimes they're also dealing with the same people that we are scared of. So the nation is crying, the people are scared, but we are simply saying communities must strengthen their patrols. And then one of the biggest messages is that it's an unfortunate something that I'll mention. Every household must have a gun. It's unfortunate part. We need to train to have licensed firearms, and then so that we can protect ourselves, our wives, our children, and our relatives. Otherwise, nobody's going to protect us. So it's a message that we are sending to the communities. that be united, make sure that you look after one another, and then have those street committees, have regular meetings, discuss this type of crimes, expose the corruption, and then hand it over to the police. But at the same time, make sure that you are protecting yourself as communities. You are united, because if the community is divided, nothing will happen.
Leader of a Forum for South Africa, Tebogo Mashilompane. Thank you for your time, sir.
No, thank you so much for having us.
Now, in news beyond the continent, at least 4 civilians have been killed following intense gunfire along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border after recent peace efforts between the two countries collapsed. The violence occurred near the Chaman border crossing, a major transit point linking Pakistan and Afghanistan's Kandahar province. The clashes involved Pakistani security forces and Taliban fighters, with each side blaming the other for violating a ceasefire agreed about 2 months ago. The talks aimed to reducing tensions along the border had broken down in November, although a Qatar-mediated truce had largely remained in place until the latest incident. Now, medical sources in Kandahar confirmed that 4 dead bodies and several wounded individuals were taken.
This segment is brought to you by MoneyPoint.
And now in business, the Corporate Affairs Commission has threatened to blacklist fintech companies enabling unregistered point-of-sales operations in Nigeria. Starting from the 1st of January 2026, no POS operator will be allowed to function without valid CAC registration. Security agencies will enforce compliance nationwide, seizing unregistered terminals and shutting them down. The CAC has observed a rising number of unregistered POS operations, putting Nigeria's financial systems and citizens' investments at risk. Now, fintechs enabling these operations will be placed on a watch list and reported to the Central Bank of Nigeria. All operators are advised to register immediately, as compliance is mandatory. Now, the National Tax Policy Implementation Committee has pledged a fair and transparent rollout of Nigeria's new tax laws. Chairman Joseph Tegbe assured implementation will be considerate of economic realities with no surprise for taxpayers. Capital gains tax charges may be reviewed, and government won't intrude on personal bank accounts. The NTPIC will consult stakeholders to ensure reforms reflect shared priorities, shielding low income. We go on a break now, but when we return, more news, and we take a look at the sports right here on News Central. Stay with us. Now, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has repaid part of its $3 billion forward sale loan from the African Export-Import Bank using crude oil worth 991 billion naira in 2024. The repayment is tied to Project Gazelle, a forward crude oil supply agreement signed in 2023. The loan was secured to support Nigeria's exchange rate stabilization efforts. As of the 31st of December 2024, the outstanding balance stands at 3.8 trillion naira. The loan's interest rate is at 3 months Libro plus 6.5%, with a 6% margin and a 0.5% liquidity premium. Exports have raised concerns about the transparency and sustainability of such crude-for-cash agreements.
This segment is brought to you by MoneyPoint.
Up next is the sports.
In the world of sports,
The full match schedule for the biggest ever FIFA World Cup has now been unveiled, given the framework of a 104-game tournament featuring 48 teams across 16 host cities in 3 countries, Canada, Mexico and the United States. North America is the site for the 2026 FIFA World Cup, with 11 cities in the United States, plus 3 in Mexico and 2 in Canada, set to host 104 matches for the summer tournament. The World Cup begins on June 11, 2026, as co-host Mexico plays the opener in Mexico City, with the United States in Los Angeles and Canada in Toronto kicking off a day later. The group stage runs until June 27 with synchronized start times in each group for the final matches in the round robin. The top 2 teams in each group and the 8 best third-place finishers advance to the knockout stage, which begins on June 28 with a round of 32. The round of 16 begins on July 4, the quarterfinals on July 9, semi-finals take place on July 14 to 15, leading up to the championship match at the MetLife Stadium on July 19. Arsenal's 18-match Premier League unbeaten run ended on Saturday after Aston Villa sealed a dramatic 2-1 victory with a last-kick winner at the Villa Park. Emilio Buendia struck deep in stoppage time after a chaotic scramble in the Arsenal box, securing Villa's 5th straight league win and handing the Gunners their first defeat since August. Villa had taken a 36-minute lead through Marty Cash, who finished at the first post after Pau Torres deflected cross. Arsenal responded after half-time with Leandro Trossard equalising shortly after coming on, pouncing when Emiliano Martinez parried Bukayo Saka's effort. Both sides created chances in the end-to-end contest, with Martinez and David Raya producing crucial saves. Arsenal now shift their attention to Wednesday's Champions League trip to Club Brugge before the Premier League games against Wolverhampton Wanderers and Everton. In other matches played, Manchester City comfortably beat Sunderland 3-0 to close the gap on Arsenal at the top of the Premier League table. Chelsea and Bournemouth were deadlocked in a goalless draw, meaning that the Blues failed to close up in the top spot. Tottenham, Newcastle and Everton all recorded crucial victories as the fixtures continued to come thick and fast ahead of the Christmas period. Lewis Hamilton has crashed out of the third practice session ahead of the qualifying for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. The 7-time champion lost control at turn 9 as the car bottomed out to the rear, losing traction. He was sent into a spin and crashed into the barriers. Hamilton explained over the team radio before climbing out of the car unassisted and retrieving parts of his broken front wing. Replays show that Hamilton was rushing in the dirty air of a car ahead of him while he also dipped into the curb, which lowered the car to the asphalt. His spin came before championship hopeful Lando Norris finished second, just 0.004 of a second behind Mercedes' George Russell. Max Verstappen was third at 0.124 seconds off the pace, with Oscar Piastri in 5th position. And finally, in the world of sport, the plaintiff, anonymized as Jane Doe, who accused Conor McGregor of sexual battery at the NBA game in Miami, Florida in 2023, has voluntarily dismissed her civil lawsuit, court records show. The notice of voluntary dismissal with prejudice was filed in the U.S. District Court, Southern District of Florida on Tuesday, December 2. The dismissal was filed nearly 2 months after a joint motion to extend the deadline for McGregor's response to the complaint on December 2 was granted. The joint motion.
And that's how we wrap it up at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our major stories. We reported tonight that Nigeria Air Force Alpha jet has crashed in Kainji base in Niger State. We also reported that Senator Ali Ndume has asked President Tinubu to withdraw ambassadorial list and cited breach of federal character principle. You heard it on News Central First tonight that at least 11 persons have been killed in a mass shooting at illegal Tavern in South Africa. Now remember that you may send your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can always watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Go TV channel 23, StarTime channel 274. You can download the AVO TV app, and wherever you are, we are search away on YouTube. Till next time, many thanks for watching. I am Inam Maso.